Damore was his name. Long was his fame. After he wrote that paper, the world was never the same. Somebody had to take the bullet. And he's a young man. He's got everything ahead of him. What he did with tact. He did with accuracy. When interviewed, it is clear this is truly the man of the West we all just pass in the grocery store and give him a nod as we try not to obscure whatever he's looking for. He makes sure to stop, even if there isn't a crosswalk, so that you can go. We need more Damore. He just pointed out, well, but there's good reason. Women choose not to do the kind of work that I do very often. Why would they? This is work, not fun. If they could choose to do something that they're going to have to dedicate their life to, well, maybe there's other things that they quite obviously prefer. Let's look at the data and see. But such disinterestedness. Oh, you can't have that. You must have the interest obvious on its face, like the Young Turks. That they might as well just wear clothing with the faces of screaming neighbors on it, because they're just socialist pigs that want to eventually kill their neighbors and take their stuff and call it just. They should just point this interest out rather than saying that they're just aggressive regressives. Soon they'll be under the struggle bus. It'll be fantastic to see. I can't wait till the struggle bus comes along for them. Damore has red-pilled the world. The spreading of the ramifications of what he's done is starting to ripple through journalism. Note, I just want to point this out, if you're on Twitter, you might have noticed these really lame meme attempters that go by Alt and then some other acronym, like Alt Immigration is one that I frequently take the piss out of this one. Like Alt EPA is another. So what it is, it's as if they are some insider inside that department fighting back for the resistance, pointing out all this stuff about Trump. Now, this is quite obvious. Former loser journalists that and because if you ask them, if you type some shit, were you a former typist for, and you name one of the many journals that's gone out of business or has had to hemorrhage a lot of journalists, and they don't say shit. They don't say shit. If you shit post and you just go from zero to damn, that was some ugly shit you just said, they don't want to have anything to do with it. If you try to keep it like, oh, but don't you understand the tax base and and if I believe in a 10% state, oh no, they'll just keep it rolling. But you start talking about how, isn't it your stinking pussy? Why don't you clean your ass? Like Tariq Nasheed said, when he was pimping you out on the corner hoe, are you hungry? You sound like either you got low blood sugar or just general low T. Do you need some hoe cakes? Do you need some like Alizé? You just go from zero to ugly. Zero to just completely ugly. Because these people are fucking about. They want, and they got it. They got it. If they want to dish it, they got to take it. So that was just something from I was thinking about with journalists. So now that it's rippling and people are reacting in many different publications, and there's all these YouTube videos that discussed it, and that more people have been doing more investigation, and that now all the stuff like Google altering search results, now this is just like boom, and now this is blowing out. Everybody's finding out about this. This is becoming, and so the big deal that I want to bring up is something came up like 2 years ago in a conversation with somebody who was working for an internet, like an advertisement and marketing, but software firm. So they would, that was their service, is that they would check how you're marketing. They were independently like searching to see how well you were being marketed, and then they would try to set you up to that your name would come up even faster. That when people were looking for what you do, that you came up. Well, and he said we're having a lot of problems because we're having a lot of trouble making sense of what's going on Twitter. Now, this is when I was still very hesitant to talk about what I really knew was going on. This is solidly Gamergate period of time. Gamergate is in full, so it's back a little even further. So, and because Alexa and its fraudulent way of reporting your internet ranking was finally coming out. And that people are finding out, oh, no, people are looking at my page. Alexa is not ranking it correctly. That once that started to come out, I was like, this is happening everywhere. The Democratic Party is going to have to rig the internet. And more people, it was really, obviously, was everybody on poll had the same idea. I wasn't following poll. But it started trickling in from that end of YouTube users and Twitter users. And it was absolutely magnificent that all this dovetailed between all these different people. Because then, remember, there's people who were like liberal journalists, like the real deal, reporting on, no, this is fraud that happened, but Bernie Sanders and and all this stuff, and that if you look for this was hard to find. It just, you had to really search correctly to find that article, to find that information, like about Dan Raleigh and what he was discovering, and that Dan Raleigh seemed to really understand the ramifications of what he discovered about how the Democrats had done what they had done, the actual technical sophistication that somebody knew about, like electronic and data warfare. And the apparatus, like some of you, if you find Dan Raleigh, there is I gotta find it. I gotta just find it and post it at some point, and so I'll have it up, easy to grab. It's a schematic of how they set up, how they stole how they stole votes from Bernie and stuff like that. It was a beautiful schematic of how the data was tiered, who had access to what data of the DNCs, and that if you paid a certain fee, you got access to certain sections of this network. It was very fascinating. So I started to see some of this coming, and just am not sophisticated enough with technology that I really understood it. Now we are seeing that Google has a severe problem. Where they are located, the giant tax breaks they have to be getting on some of that property. They're have any of you seen where the Google campus is? How dense that part of the Bay Area is? Now, I don't even know if there's any more residential part to that area anymore. That was Emeryville, the Emeryville-Berkeley collision point around San Pablo. I don't know how that neighborhood's doing now. But they were, as every chance people got, developers tried to develop that area into condominiums and apartments, and they were constantly trying to get that to happen. Emeryville's future really was depending on the Google campus, and the people living there, and there was a school for computer science that was right there and stuff like that. I know this because my massage therapy institute was right there. And I know, make all the jokes you want in the commentary section. It was, so Google has to be accountable to the Democratic Party in California. A lot of these firms have to. It's a rough slog in that field to like get to some place where you're living comfortably in the IT field is a rough slog. You really are hustling hard for a while, and it's just unbelievably fucking expensive in that area to keep them there. That you don't have like Google campuses just seemingly everywhere in every college town, that this isn't for why is this all centered in certain places? There's a lot of this that I started to consider. I'm like, no. This would make a lot of sense if the Democratic Party had really a cultural kind of bind to these firms, and that it was understood. Like we're all the same team. Yeah, it just and especially if what they needed to do was to ensure in the future the party that would be most likely to provide for them access to the world internet, to all of China, things like that, where the Republicans always have this very nationalist bunch that might have confined them, might have even broken them up. And that it looks like now there's many people who are starting to discuss. Facebook is coming across, like Ramsey Paul's even discussing. Facebook is now like the telephone company. A lot of people who would be of generally libertarian mindset are like, no, this is changed. Their status has changed, and now it's starting to severely show that they can't play dumb anymore about it. They're extremely political. They are not just a firm providing information services or anything like that. Twitter, Facebook, Google are all absolutely actively involved in getting Democrats elected in individual states and possibly in individual cities. They're extraordinarily corrupt, fundamentally. They are a private firm that is somehow bound to the Democratic Party, and so therefore kind of bound to the government. So it's the state, a state-run, or state-controlled capitalism. It's very fascinating that the weird ties also then, that because the Democratic Party is so favorable to just sort of unquestioningly do deals with China and even sell off public lands to China, as was going to happen to the Bundy Ranch. That all was going to become a big solar panel field by that some Chinese firm would be running or something like that. Yeah, that's what Reed was up to. Reed was going to probably make a lot on the skim from that. And he got, and it was great. It got shut down. Absolutely magnificent. It got shut down. And it changed Nevada law so that people have to understand that this red pilling is like everything else that's happened with Gamergate, Bundy Ranch, with all these things, that as people reacted on social media, as they spread information, and now with Poll, just like, we are going to attack. We know what you guys are going to do once when the revolution comes. We're on now it's war. The fact that Poll's on the warpath, information-wise, is priceless. Gold press Latinum, Kekistani bars, dog. Bars. Big frog on. That'd be kind of tight. Anyway, this is going to explode and be fantastic. And James Damore, just that his name's Damore. We called him Damore. Soon, what's going to happen after this, because the liberal press doesn't get it. So what did they do? They said, oh, blah, 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 like white supremacists and like saying that ethnic minorities and different people are like not intelligent and eugenicists and the blah, blah, blah. And so it's like, oh, really? So now citing your sources puts you in line with eugenicists and white supremacists of the progressive era? Hmm? Oh, you mean all those Democratic Party? That was the Democratic Party. Um, you do all know that's your team. You're now saying that Damore's a part of, but he's not on your team because he pointed out your team has a bunch of members that can't swing or throw as well, and you just leave them on the team. This is getting real complicated. Why don't you make another story to try to straighten out all the knots? Why don't you pull some of those knots out of there? No, Vox.com. Why does one Slate write a few more pieces on this? What we really need is some good old-fashioned op-eds from Eugene Robinson. Yes, that's what we need. Maybe a few tech specialists in the San Francisco Examiner Chronicle, making themselves look only fucking smarter by pointing out how, well, you see these sources he cited point out nothing. Because you see, let me tie you in knots with fancy language that really goes against the world you see around you. And that's what's going to keep happening. They're going to keep having to explain why, like, people who are reading this are like, no, really, I left that field because... No, really, my wife left that field because... No, really, my mom was in that, No, really, I've been in such and such field, and this actually makes a lot of sense because there are very few women in it. I was one of the few men in this field, and that actually makes sense because, and so that's it. Now they're going to have to fight data. You're going to have to fight science, so it's going to be like this science versus science battle, and that's when it's going. Then it's over. Then at that point, then it's completely done and it already is getting there. Where like you have Francesca Ramsey just looking just desperate and illiterate, when she tries to go up against what's real, demonstrable, numerical, quantified information. Oh my God, the Young Turks they're just pathetic, and it's just so much. They make it so easy to then trounce leftist views by pointing out how they obviously don't understand how to interpret the data and that they're just fundamentally dishonest. It's going to just keep going. Now, Damore dropped the truth. What's it that maneuver Hulk does to gamma overcharge or something, where he like grabs like an asteroid and hits, and like hits you with it, and dude, and the ripples are going to just keep going, and then they're going to come back, and this is going to, all boats are going to get shaken around by this one. And the reason why I'm saying this is because a conversation already came up loosely based off of this, based off of reaction videos to Damore's firing. There's companies like Google, Twitter, Facebook. They do have. There's this fly flying around. I'm just like, oh damn it, almost got you. There's they have earnings reports that they have to match, and now there's people bringing up how they might be gaming the numbers at the level of Alexa. So it's really this thing of, so exactly how fraudulent is their promise of how you get marketed when you purchase advertising space on Google or YouTube, are your advertisements getting the people you want it to? Are these people getting ghost banned because Google doesn't like guns? does Smith and Wesson or Colt, or do they have any redress for not being able to advertise to the people they want to advertise to? This is also starting to happen. There's some people who are on Twitter that they specialize in getting ads pulled from Breitbart. I keep forgetting what they're called, and I followed them. As soon as I found out they existed, I started to follow them, so I could do Oppo and see like who's bailing, and do people end up just quietly reappearing on Breitbart, and stuff. Are some of these companies just shining these fuckers on, or are they really taking them serious? And then why are they taking them serious? How much? Who's back in this and behind it, and all that business? I'm still kind of fiddling around because I keep forgetting what they're called. They don't have that many wins. All of this, at some point, shareholders are going to be like, so what is Alphabet? How did this start? People are now starting to research, like, how deep is DARPA into Google, and how deep is Google into DARPA? How, remember when everybody pointed out, I forget who it was who got into Alexa and got into then that there's some DARPA program to experiment on cognition using games. I forget what that one was. I found that page. It's very innocuous and it sounds very academic and everything, but it was an interesting thing. I mean, like, the Gamergaters really started to expose that Google and Facebook and Twitter were way more wired in to, and they were into the government, as like they owe them. They owe money, like they were into them in a way. They owe them favors, and that's now this is becoming exposed. And there's a lot of people who they just simply, that won't work, because at some point they have to realize, wait a second, so you guys are bullying your way into the marketing field. You have the bully pulpit, the best pulpit of all. It's a good bully. It's a good pulpit. Yeah. So these people's ads. So at what point will you not carry their ads? Steven Crowder has had this issue with Facebook. He's had to sue them. He's had this issue with YouTube that his lawyer has his lawyers talked about, that YouTube's having problems. This shook them up. VidCon shook them up. All of these things have reactions, send ripples through it all, and something's going to give. This is going to be awesome. I'm betting next year you're going to start. I'm betting that the Republicans, the smart Republicans, are going to start putting it out there that these companies aren't trustworthy. That these companies that they want to prevent these companies from infringing on people's freedom of speech, people's right to speak about their religious viewpoints, things like that. If you threaten people with violence, that's one thing. You're putting out there your religious viewpoints, that's another. And so these companies are going to have to explain precisely what they mean, precisely what they're talking about in their terms of services. They're going to have to make this very clear. Smart Republicans are going to start making these people understand you could be regulated, or worse could happen. We could stand by and watch you get sued for fraud over and over again, and have people chip away at you for your bad business practices. Not protect you when somebody wants to compete with you, Google, when somebody wants to compete with you, Facebook. We're going to stand back and let it happen. Then those companies will be in to the Republicans. The best outcome is to allow those companies to get sued a lot. Allow those companies to lose to competitors. That's the natural outcome, as they are shown to be in cahoots with a lot of the shadiness of the Democratic Party. That they actively are participating in the targeting of conservatives so that Antifa could commit violence against them. That they have no problem showing things like, Muslim Arabs and black people raping and killing and murdering. Um, but even jokes made by white people that are untoward, or oh no, you're not even allowed on Facebook anymore. No, no, no. All this is going to change. The wave is coming back from the shore very soon.